So recently there was an interview with the original Kenobi writer. His name is Stuart Beattie and it's this guy here, and he was going on about how the Kenobi show was actually meant to be a full trilogy. So there was actually meant to be movies for the Kenobi show. Here he goes on about what was meant to be planned, and I find this actually pretty interesting as we get a little bit of insight on what the original idea for Kenobi was. The first piece of information is that he actually spent a year or a year and a half working on it, and well, after Solo came out, apparently there was no more planned spin-off movies, so there was going to be more emphasis on Disney Plus shows, and this is when Stuart left the project and he went to go move on to other projects, and this is the first piece of information we are given. Stuart presented 3 stories for ObiWan Kenobi, the first of which ended up becoming the series' first season, and it actually featured the death of Reva, and the second season that looked ahead to the Jedi Master's lead up to A New Hope. The original plan for Kenobi was that Obi-Wan was going to go through different evolutions in his character, and this is in order to go from Obi-Wan to Ben. And the first one was the first movie, which was the show that showed Obi-Wan surrender to the will of the Force and also leave the kid alone, referring to Luke. So this is pretty interesting as it's a little bit of context into Obi-Wan's character and how he turns into Ben. And moving on to the second movie, or now the second season, this was thinking about where Kenobi ends up, and one of the most powerful and probably the most powerful moment in all of Obi-Wan's story from Stuart's perspective is that moment where he sacrifices himself in A New Hope. I totally agree with Stuart here. This is one of the most emotional moments in Star Wars. It's the sacrifice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Ben Kenobi, and this was actually pretty interesting, this next part, as he goes through how the second season is actually Obi-Wan Kenobi accepting his own mortality, accepting that through all of this struggle, he has to eventually come to terms with his own mortality. That is really powerful, and the way he explains it is really cool. That Obi-Wan now has to come to terms with his own mortality, somehow in a prophecy or Qui-Gon telling him there's going to come a moment where you're going to have to sacrifice yourself for the good. And the whole point of the second season is to get Obi-Wan to that point where he accepts the idea that he's going to die, and that he's going to die willingly at a crucial moment, and you will know when the moment presents itself. So as Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon walk into the desert, this is probably where we're going to be heading in terms of storytelling, and this next season most likely will be a lot of Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon discussing about what's happening and what the next chapter of Obi-Wan's life may entail.